All right, everybody, welcome to the Joe Kilgallon Podcast, aka Kilgallon's Pub. Good to be back. As always, I'd like to thank my listeners. Grateful for every single one of you. Big news, rapidly approaching the 10K mark. Almost at 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. I think I'm like 29 away or something like that. Numbers don't matter. I just want to put out good content, but I do want to thank all of you guys. And if you could, share with your friends, your enemies, even, why not? Maybe they deserve some happiness and then they won't be your enemy. We could try it that way. Also, shout out to all the Patreon subscribers. You guys are amazing. I'm dropping some more stuff this week. So you guys are great. All right. Now, without further ado, let's get into today's podcast because I've got an amazing guest. This dude is one of the funniest guys you will ever see in your life. Just a great human being, which, believe it or not, is kind of rare. Sadly, the combination of great talent and a great person. He's been on David Letterman. His latest special, his debut special, I should say, is available on Amazon, and was produced by Sebastian Maniscalco, which we'll talk about all that fun stuff, but he's a Chicago legend, and I know you guys are going to enjoy him. So everyone, welcome to the podcast, the one, the only, Pat McGann. What up, Pat?
Joe, what's up, man?
How are you?
What a nice intro, bud.
Thanks. I try to hype.
Yeah, man. How about it? Good to see you, dude.
Good to see you, too. Everyone watch it on video. Pat is a very cool dressed dad right now.
Yeah, right. This is see, you have like a great background. I got this. This is just all I got, this map. And I keep thinking I'm going to update it. And then I'm like, I just want this all to be over.
Don't we all? You know what, though? I went cheap with the update. Listeners, forgive me. I probably explained this once or twice before. And Pat, you'll appreciate this being a fair-skinned Irish person yourself. I had the same kind of color background you did, a little like tanner wall or like a like kind of like a public grade school wall, like in Chicago, just that real bland, color. Cause I'm in my basement and my skin is so damn white. It just, the contrast looked terrible.
Oh yeah.
What I did here is this is like wallpaper behind me that like just roll on stick wallpaper, almost like a fathead style where you just stick it to the wall. Cost me like $10 on Amazon.
Really? I thought you were in like a bar that you built.
It looks pretty badass, right?
I
know people compliment it. So
that's great.
But I had to do that because my skin was just looking awful. Just like two blue dots with just a bunch of red alcoholism,
That's so funny. If you pan out, then you just see like it's just a sticker on a wall.
Yeah, I mean, look, you could kind of see.
No, you did a good job there. Look at that.
If I move this around, you see over here, this is the wall there. There's the basement window. I didn't know I could do this. It's kind of a cool little function. I got a Beals hat there. I try to put.
I have the same exact basement windows.
They're classic, right?
Yeah, right.
Can't beat that. All right, Pat. I want to lead off first. What do you think Tom Brady's secret is, man? You watched the games over the weekend, right? I mean, he looked terrible in the second half. Not terrible, but he looked like a 43-year-old. But I was looking at the numbers. Man threw 40 touchdowns. He's 43 years old, over 4,000 yards. Some sort of deal with the devil, I think.
I think it's just insane what he has done. I still love his story just because of how it starts, because he was, everybody knows that he wasn't highly touted or drafted. And then, I don't know, just the fact that he keeps doing it. But I got to be honest with you, like I watch the highlights. Dude, I'm just not into sports as much this year. It's just really hard for me to like watch an entire game. After the Bears started out, like, remember were they 5-0 or something? It was like, but they were terrible 5-0. It's like I can't even watch this 5-0 team that's good. Can't even get excited about them. Yeah, just with like after the baseball, I kind of had a hard time watching a lot of football.
You know what it was? I think for a lot of people, like, because I know you're a big baseball guy yourself. Baseball season, we only got 60 games. It didn't start until like a couple weeks after 4th of July.
Yeah.
It just got to a point in 2020 where we're like, all right, we're just not going to get sports. And then the NBA started with the, people call it like a Mickey Mouse season because they played down in Orlando right off of Disney World. And they started again July 31st and they went until like almost Halloween. And then they didn't start up again until just after Christmas or just before Christmas, the NBA stared, which makes
it's hard to feel in sync with any of it.
Yeah, just, and I've realized this about life. I was joking about this with someone recently because I think Bill Burr had the joke where he talked about if his girlfriend or his wife left him, he'd be devastated, but after a week he'd get over it, but if like he was talking about like if his dog died, that would rip him apart,
Yeah.
I thought about that too. That's kind of the sad realization we've all made over the past year with this pandemic, is that out of sight, out of mind after a while. I stopped playing in my fantasy football league that I'd been in for like 15 years. And I remember like week 1 being like, oh man, I miss it. Maybe I should have played. Oh, this is a bummer. By week 2, I out of my brain. I was literally that quickly. It took me 2 weeks, and then I stopped even caring.
Yeah,
Where
right.
before I was watching every single game because I wanted to make sure human beings I don't know were healthy.
I mean, I will watch the Super Bowl. And I did watch, I watched the second game on Sunday, like more of the Buffalo Kansas City game, which was, that wasn't even that tight either.
No. Buffalo
Neither
with
of
that
them were
little
as
engine they
close as
could.
you know.
Do you put any money on this stuff?
No, I mean, I'll do squares. I have some squares for the Super Bowl, but I don't really like play the money line or anything. Who's favored right now? What's the?
I think Kansas City is a small favorite as of now. I want to say like by 3 points, perhaps. I got to check that out.
I just love that the starting quarterback names are Thomas and Patrick, which is those are like Patrick is my dad's name. Thomas is my wife's dad's name. It's like these names are still going. I love it. Give your kids some solid names. You don't have to name them all Trevor, and I'm going into a bit now, Joe.
You are.
This is
we
reaching for something on Thomas and Patrick.
No, I know what you're saying though, man. That you don't really. I keep coming across. I'm really into Wikipediaing celebrities these days, and it's not just like I'm bored doing it. I'll be watching a movie, and I'll be like, "Oh, what else has that guy been in?" And before I know it, I'm reading all their Wikipedia information.
Right.
And all of them have such stupid children's names. Their kids' names are always like, this is my son LaFleur or something like that. Where it's like you give him a French last name as your kid's first name, LaFleur. Really, that's the kid's name. I mean, your last name is Smith. What are you doing? Yeah, I'm trying to think. What was I watching last night?
That can be distracting,
I can't remember.
though, right? When you're watching something, you're like, they were in, and then you start looking them up. You're off.
Well, as a dad, you watch all these kids stuff and Pixar voices. You're like, I know this voice. And then you start going down the wormhole of like, all right. You ever come across a voice actor where I remember was watching a show called Nature Cat.
Oh, yeah.
Now, yeah, it's on PBS. It's a fun show. It's all star-studded cast. It's all like the SNL people, like Taron Killam, Kate McKinnon, Keenan.
Yeah.
Yeah, Keenan Thompson, I think his last name is. He wait, is that his last name? What's Keenan's last name?
It's Thompson, isn't it?
Is it Thompson? I don't know why it sounded like a wide receiver. Keenan Allen, I was thinking of the wide receiver. Anyhow, I got football in my mind, people. This one episode, they were going to a concert. It was actually pretty funny because they're like, wait, who's performing? Because all these birds were going to a concert, and the birds were like, oh, you didn't hear? It's Michael Blue Jay instead of Michael Bublé. And I'm like, damn it, that's some good writing. I was hilarious, right?
I love how much you pay attention.
Dude, I'm in it, man. Sometimes I tell my kids, I go, shh, come on. I've invested 22 minutes into this shit. Don't ruin the ending right now. Then they get to the concert, and the guy's voice was like Michael Bublé. So I'm like, oh, Michael Bublé is cool. He probably did the voice. I looked it up. It was not Michael
Bublé.
Out
for the credits? You didn't see him? No?
No. I looked. I found the credits, and it was some guy's name. I can't remember now because it was a few weeks ago, I think. Or longer, maybe. I can't remember now. Time is not a real thing these days. And it was a guy who didn't have a picture on his IMDb, but he did like a shitload of voice work, which we know means he's ugly as hell, which is why he only does voice, right? That's got to mean that.
Those guys break it in, too. Do you ever work with Brian Scott McFadden? He used to come through Zanies, and he had like, he did voices, but his dad was like the voice. And you talk about looking somebody up. I remember looking him up. And his dad was like the voice of like Count Chocula and like the Serta sheep, and just made a ton of money doing like cartoons and things like that,
I make a fortune. I want to get in that game. But
I mean, those guys have had like the Zoom virtual life all along. They just go into a place and talk into a microphone, and then there's no one there, and then they just get tons of checks.
It's a dream. That's a dream world to be in right there. Residuals are an amazing thing. You do work, and then you keep getting paid for that work way after the fact.
Oh, I know. Can you imagine?
I did one episode of Chicago Med, and every now and then I'll get like a $12 check for it because it ran in Asia, like 10 episodes or something.
Isn't that the best?
It's amazing.
Yeah, I'll get a check for $3.
Dude, the economy in LA just did not make any sense. You know, you've been out there a bunch, and I lived out there for like 3.5 years. And what's crazy about LA as a city, and it doesn't really feel like a city. I mean, they've got like the downtown feels like a city, but the rest of it just feels like a bunch of suburbs that are connected, which makes even more sense for the point I'm about to make, because every neighborhood in LA will have like a little section where it's multi-million-dollar homes. Whereas Chicago doesn't have that. Chicago will have whole neighborhoods where it's like, this is really sad. And, you could buy that whole block for $100,000, like, because it's a lot of crime and all that. LA, even bad parts of LA, they'll be like, oh, that's that block of Compton, $3 million houses.
Yeah.
And you'll drive down and be like, this is insane right now. This looks like Brentwood, but it's surrounded by, and every single pocket has it. I just never got it. And so badly, I first moved there. So I'm rambling a bit here. My wife was like, and I think a lot of people have this. When you see a really massive house, don't you kind of want to knock on their door and be like, what do you do for a living?
Oh, yeah.
Because they can't all be Tom Cruise.
Yeah, there's this many people. That's why I always like, you ever go down like Sheridan Road up in the North Shore of Chicago, and just like there's this many people doing this well. It's insane.
It is. It's mind blowing. I went up beginning of December. We went to go see the Home Alone house, and that's in Winnetka, where just every other house is massive.
Yeah, right. And it's got to mostly be inherited. It's just got to be generational.
I think so much of that stuff is. And then once you have that nest egg, you could afford to take gambles that, that whole old adage, it takes money to make money. I started reading about this stock today. Now, do you have any money in the stock market? Are you messing with that at all?
A little bit.
A little bit. Okay. So
I'm not like actively playing, but I have some long game stuff just for.
That's smart.
Yes.
So GameStop, there's a crazy thing. It's been all over like a lot of the like business channels. I don't think your mainstream media is covering it.
Oh, I saw this. They like artificially boosted the value.
Crazy, dude.
How are they doing it? That's what I didn't.
All right. So I dug into it a little bit. Now, I signed up for that Robinhood app like 7 months ago. I'm not really a big stock guy. I don't know a whole lot of stuff. Like, I know real stock guys would be like, fuck that Robinhood app. You want to go to this one? And I don't even know. But
you don't have 3 screens right there, Joe, just ready. Like, I got to go. The markets are about to open in Europe. So I only have like 10 more minutes.
Yeah, I would love to be that guy. But
who
I'm not
are
that
those
guy.
people? Yeah, I don't even believe in that shit.
It's insane, dude. I knew a few guys who got into stocks in our early 20s, and they're like, yeah, dude, Wednesday night is stock night. So if you ever want to come meet up with us, we drink scotch and smoke cigars over at Brian's place. And I'm just like, I don't think I'm going to hang out with you guys too much going forward. This is just too much. I don't think any of them made it rich, so maybe I was right to stay away from them. But dude, it's pretty crazy what's going on with it. So I mentioned signing up for Robinhood. Now, when you sign up for Robinhood, they'll give you a free stock just to like entice you a little bit. And it's a $5 stock usually. That's what I've been told.
Their choice?
No, it's not a choice. They just go, here's your free stock. It's a free share. So I got a free share in GameStop back 7 months ago, and it was worth $5. And it usually would go down to like $4. I remember one point it was at like $3.50. Then it would inch back up to like, it was in the $4 range forever. Then about a few weeks ago, I heard people start to mention, GameStop, a lot of movement going on with GameStop. And I'm like, really? Do I even have that share? I'm sure I didn't mess with it. I didn't even look at it. And I looked at it and it was creeping up. And I'm like, it's like $15 now. That's cool. If I had more than $5 in it, I would triple my money. Really have zero because it was a free stock. Dude, today it closed at $212 from being $4
You still have it?
a few months ago. I still have it.
Sell that thing.
I should, right? It's an easy $200 gain. I did some research. There is a thing on Reddit. It's a subreddit or whatever that is. I don't know Reddit very well. Called Wall Street Bets. Now, Wall Street Bets is a group of people who like, they throw out tips and stuff like that, but it's meme culture from what I understand. I'm not knocking them. That's all I've gathered from the little bit of intel I got. And in it, they mention about how this big hedge fund company was trying to short GameStop, which I don't know exactly what it means, but it basically means they're buying short so that they could prop it up and then sell it and make a huge profit, essentially. I need Margot Robbie in a bubble bath. If you've seen the movie The Big Short, I need her to explain it to me better.
Right.
And these kids, or they're not kids, but they assume they're kids because they're young. They're probably in their 20s or 30s. They were like, you know what? How about fuck them for doing that? We like GameStop still. We're going to buy the shit out of GameStop stocks. And because of that, the hedge fund had to buy stocks to keep up with the stocks that other people were buying. Otherwise, they would have been drowned, from what I understand. That hedge fund has lost over a couple $2 billion now, and they now need to be bought out by someone else. And all these kids are like making a fortune. I went on the Reddit forum to fuck around just to be like, oh, what are they saying? People are showing like their student loan receipts. People are paying off $30,000 student loans because they like bought. But again, this goes back to what I was saying before. It takes money to make money. This one guy was like, oh, I heard what you guys were doing. I got in when it was $10 a share. I bought $1,000 worth. So you need like money like that lying around. I think all of them were like, oh, dude, we're going to do next. We're going to do AMC. We're going to do BlackBerry. We're going to take all these companies that people are devaluing that we love for like sentimental, nostalgic reasons, and we're going to prop them up. And they're all like, oh, yeah, dude, I'm going to buy fucking 10 grand worth tomorrow. I see the way they're talking. And I'm like, where the fuck are you guys getting this money?
This makes me think the whole economy is about to collapse. If you could do this shit.
That, and it also shows how the economy is kind of bullshit. Because the stock market doesn't really
certainly
reflect
the stock
anything. Market.
I
think the SEC is going to get involved, and people are saying it's bullshit that the SEC is going to get involved because it's billionaires who are like losing money, and the billionaires can be like, well, this isn't fair. Meanwhile, when they do all the shady shit, everyone turns the other way. So it's kind of like a David versus Goliath thing where David's like, well, here's my slingshot, you rich fucks. Now we win, So I'm kind of rooting for them in that sense. I hope they keep doing it to a bunch of stocks, and I could sneak in and get a little money on the side.
Oh my God. It just does not sound like that's like gonna end well for anybody.
No,
but I mean, I'm gonna keep
everyone posted.
Those people at GameStop must have been like, what? We haven't done any, we haven't changed our business model, they haven't changed our forecast, our sales are the exact same, but our stock is soaring.
Dude, like, it's so funny to me. They couldn't even be reached for comment. Like really? CNBC and Fox Business was like, we're trying to talk to someone at GameStop to get a comment from them. I think GameStop is like, let's shut the fuck up and hope this keeps happening. Right. Because we're worth way more than we were worth. And this is amazing because I guess they do now have plans of becoming like an e-commerce thing where it's going to be like, they're going to get into like video game streaming and shit, which I don't know how they weren't already moving in that direction anyway, because who's going to stores these days, right?
Yeah, that's what I thought. I saw that they had like some technology, but
honestly, when I first heard the GameStop was starting to go up a few weeks ago, I assumed, I'm like, oh, they must have gotten their hands on a bunch of PlayStation 5s.
I just love that you're part of this. So you're a stockholder, and you got to be feeling good, dude. You're gonna have a real wood background soon. You're gonna have,
real wood's coming, my man.
It's gonna be fucking perfect.
I'm buying a cabin in Michigan. We're gonna do it right.
Yes.
Get the whole thing all off my $5 share.
Off of GameStop.
Jesus Christ, man. All right, let's talk about something I've always been really curious to talk to you about. You were one of the last comedians, I believe, to perform on David Letterman.
Yes.
Dude, could you, if you wouldn't mind, because I do think I've got a good amount of young comedians who listen, and I don't want them to think there's any one blueprint for any of this stuff. And who knows, if you're a year into comedy, this was a bad year for you to choose to start stand-up comedy, by the way. But don't get down. And also, you're a long way away from a late night spot. And also, sadly, or who knows? I don't even know if late night spots are going to be a thing a decade from now. It seems to be trending the other way. Every show seems to have less and less comics on.
Right.
Like when we were growing up, didn't it feel like there was a stand-up on a few times a week? And then it got to a point where it was like once a week, maybe. Sometimes once every 2 weeks, there'd be a stand-up on. Anyhow, but if you wouldn't mind taking me through the process of getting David Letterman and what that must have felt like, because that's like the comedian's equivalent of like, hey, mom and dad, I'm getting drafted in the first round.
Yeah, it was cool. That was like the one show that I really wanted to do, and I felt like I was kind of close when I was showcasing there for Eddie Brill. He would come through and do like the showcase there, and then Eddie was no
He's the
longer
booker,
booking
right?
the comics anymore, and it was kind of like, oh wow, that's and you know what I'm saying, like I was like trying to build it with him. So then it was like I didn't even know who the bookers were, and I was working in Columbus at the Funny Bone with Nick Griffin, and Nick was like, "Hey, I know the bookers." He was like Letterman's favorite comic. Nick Griffin was on Letterman, I think, like 15 times,
Wow.
and he recommended me. And it after that, it started to like really seem like it was going to happen. But it took like 7-8 months. Got an email, um, and it was like a month ahead of time, and it was cool. I submitted the tape. They kind of helped build the set a little bit. We kind of go back and forth a little bit. The experience was awesome. I didn't really like hang out with David Letterman. I only met him on the set as we taped it. The first time I saw him was when I walked out there. I mean, I was nervous like you wouldn't believe. Kevin Bacon was a guest.
Dude, so you're 1 degree of separation from Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, right.
That's pretty great.
Yeah, he was a guest. I'm trying to think who the other guest was. And then Shaky Graves was the musical guest. And just being in that theater, it's kind of cool that it's a theater and not a TV studio, in the sense that like it is good for stand-up. It's a great atmosphere, but the guy like kind of sensed that I was nervous. I just always remember he was like I'll tap your shoulder when it's time to go out. And he's like, just remember, this is where the Beatles made their debut and Elvis. And like, it was like cool to hear that though,
Yeah.
He was trying to relax me by making me more nervous. But it was fun. It was cool. Good experience. It was, I have the cue cards. They gave me the cue cards that he read off of when he introduced me. I still have those. That's like probably one of my, bigger mementos from stand up.
You get them framed?
I do have them framed. Yeah. Sarah got them framed for me for Christmas a couple years ago.
Nice. It's kind of a cheap gift though,
Yeah. Right. It's like, this is a gift from you.
I got it for free for an accomplishment. And you went to Michael's. Ooh, okay.
Right. That's exactly where she got it done.
No, that's crazy. So when you said they helped you with the set, does that mean they were like, lose that line, or we're not sure about this joke for our sponsors? Was it stuff like that?
Yeah, I remember I'm trying to think there there was like a phrasing of a word.
They didn't want you to say slut as much as you do.
Yeah.
We know, man.
I did I did have a joke about my daughter being in a crib, and I called it like a sunroof prison or something. And
they didn't like that.
It was right after. Do you remember when like those terrorists lit that person on fire? Was it Al Qaeda or
probably?
They lit him on fire, and it was like they put it on the internet. It was like
I kind of remember that. It. Yeah, because when did you do it? Like 2014?
Yeah, I did it. I actually did it twice. I did it in 2014 and 2015. Whatever the last year was. I think it was 2014 and 2015.
That's right. And both times you only talked to Dave when you were doing like on stage?
Both times. The second time he lingered a little bit longer after the wrap up, but no interaction before the show. Just saw him on the set. The one time I was there, I was getting in the elevator and someone was running up the stairs, and the stairs go like along the side. It's an old building along the side of the elevator. And I thought this person was running to catch the elevator. And I was like, oh, hey, and I'm holding it. And it was him. It was Letterman. And he was in between shows. So they taped 2 on Thursdays, and I was going in for the second taping. And they said that in between shows, he ran those stairs. He ran them every day after he had his heart issue. And
okay.
He was hauling ass up those stairs, man. It was like his workout.
That's crazy. Like celebrities will do workouts in the weirdest way. Hannibal Buress, I was hanging out with him once after a show, just after he did the movie Neighbors. And, he plays like a cop in that.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
he told me in between takes, whenever they were like, all right, cut. And then, they're resetting lights and film. Zac Efron's assistant would come over to him with a couple like dumbbells, like I don't know, like 25 pounds or something like that. And Zac Efron would do curls in between every take. And then sometimes like in between takes, he would drop down and do push-ups, or he was just, and then Hannibal's like, come to think of it, it's a pretty good time to do something because you're just standing around. But it was nuts. He'd be like, cut. And then immediately he'd be like, yeah. And then the guy would come over and he'd start just pumping.
Don't you think you get like sweaty?
I don't know if maybe it was just tone. Maybe just keep it tone. Maybe it would get a little
sweaty. Did he have
sweaty.
his shirt off? He probably had his shirt off in the scene.
Yeah, keep it tight.
Wanted to keep looking buff, keep looking vascular.
I should have followed up with Hannibal, but now that I think about it, if I would have followed up with Hannibal going, was his shirt off? He might have made fun of me for that.
He wants to get the veins out, probably.
I
just saw Hannibal in that movie with Will Ferrell and
Mark Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg.
He's good in that.
It's very good, man.
Dude,
we watched that as a family. It's funny. I never saw that movie.
I didn't see the sequel, but it was a good movie. Mark Wahlberg is underrated as a comedic actor.
I agree.
Because he was good in the other guys. And Ted was very funny too. But isn't it getting weird to see like more and more people we know in movies and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, it's always it's funny too. Like when you watch, like when you're talking about watching something with your kids, I do say that to them. Like they're a comic or worked with them or seen them. I think I don't do it to like drop names, but I kind of do it to make it seem like they're not that far removed. Like that's, if you wanted to, it seems so far away when we're younger, right? Like you never felt attached to, or I didn't. Now you see things, or you have like points of separation with a lot of them.
Yeah, man, that's a good way of looking at it. Growing up, it did seem far away, And I think you and I both growing up Irish Catholic, did you ever think comedian, actor, any of that shit was in the cards?
Oh, and if you said it, they'd say, what? Why do you think you could do that? The fuck? You're funny, yeah, but everyone's here is funny.
Yeah.
You go, you're going to go on stage? Like it wasn't like encouraged or fostered. Was it for you?
No, no, for me, fuck no, man. I even thought about, I was talking with a buddy of mine not that long ago where it's like, dude, I wish I would have known back in high school or had the courage, because like my high school did The Odd Couple as a play, and I loved the TV show and reruns when I was a kid. And my dad showed me the movie with Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon. And I'm like, I would have gone out for that if I didn't think my friends would fucking give me shit for it,
Right. I mean, there is a fine line, right? Between like being confident and then being like boastful. But it's very like, I think it suffocates some creativity or like this longing to do that in certain ways, right? If you're always kind of like, keeping everyone in check, almost like, right?
Yeah, no, I hear you on that, man.
Like I'll run into my buddies now, and I'm running, like trying to just stay in shape. Like, what are you running for? What are you,
It's so fucking weird, man. We grew up around the same type of dudes.
We should be in therapy together. We could probably just do a 2-for-1.
We probably could, man. It's funny to me because I just want to explain to them, hey guys, we're in our mid-30s now. Reading a book doesn't mean you want to suck someone's dick. Okay. It's good. It's good to read books. It's good to expand your horizons, maybe meet people outside your comfort zone, get some world views,
Right.
Go to a city that isn't the Wisconsin Dells for vacation. I don't know. These are just thoughts. It's like get some culture. Right. Let's go to the art museum. What do you think, huh? Let's
figure something out. Change. Did you change?
Yeah. God, I've been told I changed a lot. See, they used LA though, because I moved for a stretch. Now you went away to college though. I remember talking. You went to University of Dayton, which is like a really cool party school. I never went away to college, so LA kind of was like I'm getting away. I'm doing some stuff for comedy, so it's not just. I'm not just getting away from Chicago, the city I love, of course, and was raised in. But I remember coming back to visit, and it was right around like Thanksgiving or something. I'm wearing a brown leather jacket, and they're like, "Look at this fucking LA Joe over here, huh? Hollywood. Look at Hollywood." And Pat, no bullshit, the leather jacket I was wearing, I had owned for 7 years, and I'd bought it at a Value City in Norridge, Illinois. So it wasn't like
a furniture store.
it's Value City Furniture now, but at one point they were like a
They had a
Marshall
coat
laundry.
section.
They had a clothing section, man.
They had extra leather from the right.
Leftover from a Barking Lounger.
Yeah. It was my Barking Lounger coat. Dude, that's funny. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I got that for gel in my hair. I remember. And it was, this is before I was doing it. Stand up. I just was living on the north side. You get gel in your hair? Like, I guess, yeah. Don't I look good?
Yeah.
I'm trying to get laid out here.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, man.
Isn't that what we're doing?
Now, Pat's a South Sider from the South Side of Chicago, and you just mentioned living on the North Side. You get some shit when you're a South Sider and you move up to the North Side. I've had other South Side friends tell me that family was upset with them, and friends were like, "Fucking yuppie, get the fuck away from us." Then, if that's the way it is,
dude,
it
was
crazy.
Some of the best years of my life. I mean, I loved college, but I loved living up on the North Side, especially like in my 20s, even before, I didn't start doing stand-up till I was like 31. I started stand-up when all my buddies like stopped. Like they were out of the hanging out, and it was just kind of like, okay, what do I do now? Like maybe now I can start doing, I was just hanging out with everybody, just roaming around. And I loved those years though. Riding the L and just feeling like Chicago's a city, right? And we love saying that we live in Chicago on the South Side, but it's very neighborhood, and Chicago is great for neighborhoods, but it's not like you're jumping on the L and you're, got a million restaurants and every, that city experience. I love that.
Population density. You know what I mean? Where you get like when you get into the more trendy neighborhoods and you get closer to downtown. That I dig too. I'm like you. I grew up like Irving and Milwaukee Porch Park neighborhood, and it's city. And it's very neighborhoody though, but it definitely doesn't have that, restaurant bar like all in a row. And
there's not cabs like flying by your street down the street. You see some cabs every now and then, right? But
not really. There's no real hustle and bustle with that. There's kind of like. And the neighborhoods are great, but like everything's like local. People kind of know each other a little bit more, which is cool. But yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, man. That city feel of like there's like a grind to it where you're at one bar and you're like, hey, fuck it, we're gonna go to this bar. It's about 10 blocks away. It's a couple buck cab ride. Let's everyone pile in.
Right.
I kind of miss those days. That's what Uber ruined that. I kind of love the idea of like waving it down and too many people getting to the back. And the driver's like, I can't have this. There's not seatbelts. And you're like, fuck off. Just drive. We got you. Big tip for you. Come on. You're giving him a hard time. And he knows he's got no choice but to be like, fine. Because half you are already in here. One of you might puke on the back of my car. That I miss. I miss that shit. Uber, see, technology sometimes ruins it.
I miss the, being able to bounce from one show to another show. And both rooms are packed. And they're different audiences, but they're, you can do that up, like you said, where the population is more dense and there's more places, venues and nightlife. Everything here kind of shuts down during the week.
Yeah, man. Dude, I just was reminded of like one time with a cab situation. We were at John Barleycorn, which is such a douchey bar. I don't even think it's there anymore.
Which one? The original one or?
The one in Wrigleyville might still be there. There was one in Lynn Park that I think has since closed. But anyhow, we're getting real inside Chicago for my national listeners here. But it was a cousin's birthday party, I want to say. And my now wife got hammered drunk. And she's the number of times she's been like hammered drunk, I could count on one hand. Where me, there's not enough hands on this block to count, And I remember I started I drove, I was fine. I only had like a beer or two. I think I was like 22. So it's like, all right, I was like, I got to get her home, but it was Wrigleyville. There's no parking. So I parked like a mile away and she couldn't move. And I'm like, I can't carry her eight to 10 blocks. So I remember going on Addison. There's a bus stop. I'm like, just wait right here. I put her on the bench and I sprinted 2 blocks to get to the car. And I drove them the 2 blocks, and then I get out of the car. Like I put it in, it's still running. It's in park, of course. And I go to grab her. And as I'm lifting her up, a bunch of people are like, hey, the fuck? They thought I was like abducting this drunk girl.
Sure they did. Right.
And I'm like, hey, she's my fucking girlfriend. Relax. I open the back seat and I just lay her across the back seat. And I get in the car and drive off. And it could not have looked like a more shady situation to all of those people.
Yes. And look how they just let it happen.
They did shit.
It's just like all you had to say was, she's my girlfriend.
I mean, at that point, what are they going to
do? They might push it nowadays,
I literally said, hey, I couldn't carry her anymore. I mean, nowadays, I think someone might have been it's a different scenario. I mean, we're talking 2007. This would have happened, 2006. So like now you're right, man.
If you're that person, do you ever like, all right, I'll let him take her, but let me, what kind of car is it? I'm going to remember that at least, or
yeah,
I'm going to remember the first letter of the license plate. It was a
first letter of the license plate.
Drive? Yeah, it was a
Ford Tempo, I believe I drove at the time.
It's a white Ford Tempo, officer. Started with the D.
There you go. Then you know. Now, you're not like, you see, you're such a nice guy. I don't think of you as ever being a guy that got in any fights. Did you ever get any fights?
Yeah, I got into some fights.
You got into some fights?
Not a ton. I got in a fight one time. I was in a fight in a bar once. It was like out of a movie. And then there was another fight on St. Patrick's Day. I had a bunch of buddies from Dayton up, and we went to the parade out here, and we're walking back, and it was like a parking lot of a gas station, like a brawl spread out. It's like, for what? And I got in a fight when I was in 6th grade.
For what? Come on, you don't remember what was said?
Over a girl. That was over a girl. It was like,
over girls usually,
somebody would like said something about a girl I was supposedly dating, and then I had to defend her honor. That one was a kind of a good scrape, and the kid kneed me in the ribs, and I had never had that pain. You ever get bruised ribs?
Yeah, I played high school football, and I remember having really tender, like my lower ribs, and then I was like, I gotta get one of those rib pads.
Ooh,
I thought,
like when you inhale, and it would just like catch you, like when you breathe.
It hurt for a little bit. Luckily, they weren't broken. I knew they weren't broken. I didn't get an X-ray, but they're like, they're not broken. You're just bruised. You'll be all right. I remember it was a high pass, and when I went up to catch it, your shoulder pads go up a little bit, and the dude who tackled me, he got face mask right in like the ribs, and
oof.
I remember catching it and then just hitting the ground. Like the ground came up and hit me in the head because he just planted me from midair and just drove me right. It was a sick tackle on his end.
Did you make the catch?
Oh, yeah, hell yeah, dude. I had great hands.
Oh,
man.
Yeah. There you go.
Dude, I don't get cocky about many things, but I caught everything. I just wasn't durable because I think 2 days after that play, I broke my leg and was out for the year, and that ended my career. I'm like, I'm not getting back into this shit. I already lost the first step. I can't be a receiver who's not fast. And after I broke my leg, I ran a 4.8 40 when I was a sophomore, and then broke my leg like at a weird slice break along the fibula that like kind of right by the ankle bone up a little bit, like kind of like a diagonal break. It was weird. They like re-break it in the hospital, and they pumped me full of morphine when they did it. And I'll tell you what, that shit is great. If you ever get a chance,
I needed that.
Get on that morphine if you could get it. And then after that, I remember junior year, like, going through like, or not even junior year, it was still sophomore year, but after the season when I was allowed to do like the off-season drills and stuff, they're like, yeah, you're clear. You could start working out again. I was losing races to people I would smoke, and they would look at me like, what are you, half-assing it? Like, I'm like, dude, I'm going as fast as I can. I don't know why I'm not running faster. And I just lost my first step. I had like a pretty quick, explosive first step, and I just was gone. So I remember when I would race people, or you're doing the drills, you're going sideline to sideline and all that stuff. And I think we did the 40, and I was like 5'2", 40, which is bad. You can't be on varsity as a wide receiver running a 40 over 5. 4.8 as a sophomore is actually really a good time. By senior year, you're trying to get to 4.5, which is really solid. But once the first step was gone, I was fucked. But anyway, I only asked about the fighting because I want to know if this changed in you too when you became a dad. When I became a dad, I've been into two little scrapes since then. They're both defending honors. One was my buddy's girlfriend, and another was Megan Gailey. I don't know if you know this, but
Oh, really?
I was the only guy at
You got a
Megan
fight with
Gailey's.
Megan Gailey?
I think, if I would have kicked her ass, dude. If I got into a fight with Megan Gailey, I would straight up. Nah, she's pretty tough, but she scares easily. She literally scares really easy. She's the type of person, if you go boo, she'll be like, oh my God, why the fuck did you do that? I lived with her for 9 months, and she'd be in the kitchen. I'd be like, hey, I'm about to run out. She'd be like, I didn't know you were here. I'm like, I've been here the whole fucking time. My wife's like that too. Just before the podcast, I said to her, hey, I got to go do this. And she's like, I'm like, and I looked at her, I'm like, who the fuck else could it be? Who else is asking you a calm, nice question in the middle of our fucking kitchen? That's a woman thing. I'll be sexist about that if that's sexist.
No, I had a buddy, my college roommate was twitchy like that. We could like be sitting next to each other, and I could just go, huh? Just
it must be some
trauma. Excitable
or something. They're very fidgety. But anyway, though, dude, with the Megan Gailey thing, I was the only guy at her bachelorette party, which was kind of fun. And then I realized I was just security because we went to some dance club downtown. And whenever some creepy guy would start dancing with one of the girls, they'd be like, Joe. And I would then start dancing with one of the girls. And the guys would be like, oh, shit, I didn't know you were with her. And then the guy would leave. But this one dude sat in like the VIP section. And we were like, buddy, you got to go. And he was doing this whole, I can't hear you. What? I can't hear you. What? And then I'm like, could you hear this? And I grabbed him and fucking threw him across. He went airborne, man. He went like a good 8 feet across the dance floor. And a bunch of people kind of like music almost stopped. And they're like, what the fuck's going on here? And I'm like, I fucking told you, dude. Which feels cool when someone's on the ground and you're above them. You're like, I fucking told you. That looks great.
Not worried at all that guy's like gonna bust out a Glock or turn into some war machine.
Well, I sized him up and I realized he probably doesn't have a gun. I was a little bit bigger than him, but not much. Like, I don't know, he's probably like 5'10". So I'm a couple inches bigger than him, and I was just like size wise. I'm like, I don't think this guy's going to, but that's what I was going to lead to. Once you become a dad though, because, I was talking about how I had to grab my drunk girlfriend at the time off a city bus bench at midnight, and everyone thought I was abducting her, and how nowadays people would be like, oh, wait, hold on. We're going to stop this. You're kidnapping her, because everyone's more, which is a good thing. Everyone should be more alert to these situations. But I remember reading once I saw a Facebook post where this girl was like, I was on the bus and this guy was harassing me and nobody did anything. And I remember thinking to myself, shit, now that I'm a parent, things are different. When I was single, I probably maybe would have gotten involved, but I'm not going to get knifed in the back because some guy's being a dick to you. I mean, I'm sorry. It sucks for you. Like if he was actually physically beating you, I'd do something. But if he's just like, hey, what's up, sugar tits, for 7 stops, you know what? Get off at the next stop, or sit closer to the driver. I'll wait him out. He's got to get off eventually. I don't know, but I'm not going to be like, hey, sir, be polite. And then I get stabbed. And then I have to think, hey, tell my sons I love them, but daddy doesn't put up with shit on the fucking Irving Park bus. Like, can't risk that.
Yeah. It changes perspective for sure. You're not as socially vigilant, but also like, it's like, you also don't care as much either, right?
The caring part's a big part of it because, like I said before, you're being verbally harassed. It sucks, but I'm not getting involved over that. You know what I mean? Maybe I get involved and then you'd say, hey, shut the fuck up. That's how I flirt. That happened to me once at fucking Ace Bar. Actually happened to Marty DeRosa. Marty DeRosa told this guy to leave this girl alone because this girl, or this guy called the girl like a dumb bitch or something. And Marty's like, oh, it's a real fucking nice thing to say to women. And then the woman ended up hitting Marty in the head. And he was like, what the fuck? I was sticking up for you. Like, just, weird shit like that.
Yeah, people are insane.
They are, man.
Isn't that what we've all learned
We have. Well, you have a great title for your special that is available on Amazon, everybody. It's I'm blanking. No, it's called When's Mom Coming Home?
When's Mom gonna be home?
When's Mom gonna be home? Sorry, I don't know why
I always say that we named it before the pandemic, obviously, because now it's like, when is Mom not gonna be home? Why are they always home?
Always.
Dude, I had like one of a newer bit I was working on right when this shit all happened about kind of like, we're never home. Can't do that anymore. You're talking about being injured. Does it feel like we're kind of on the disabled list? Like we're not going to come back maybe the same. Maybe we'll lose a little bit on our curveball or fastball. Are we all coming back from this injury?
Well, I'm trying to look at it positively by thinking to myself, everyone's on the shelf at the same time. I know there's a lot of comics who've been doing Zoom shows, and I think I heard you've done some, corporate Zoom stuff and everything. We know that's not quite the same. I haven't really been doing them, but it's just going to be like riding a bike. We're going to get back into the swing of it. I'm sure the first few weeks when everyone's truly back.
Yeah.
I was talking to a couple comedians last week on the podcast, Marty DeRosa and Jonah Jerkins. They were both like, oh, dude, when everything's fully open again, it's going to be like St. Patrick's Day every day. People are going to be obnoxiously amateurish. People are going to be throwing up on the carpets at Zany's and the Laugh Factory. And
it's to see those guys. Like when you mention comics, that we both know, it's just like so fun just to be like, God, you always picture them like in a green room or in the back of a room. It'd be so good to see everyone once we get going again.
Well, dude, I mean, I'll reach out to you. We did a hang. We hung out. I finally said to my wife, I'm like, because I was losing my fucking mind, man. I was going a little crazy. A friend of ours, Jonah, moved into a new place. It's fucking huge. And there's no furniture in there. So I was like, hey, before you move in, we could get like 6 or 7 of us for a socially distanced hang. And we were safe. We had masks on. It was easy to be 6 to 7 feet apart. But I indulged too much and I threw up on his floor. He just moved in. I threw up all over his floor. I feel like such a piece of shit. I got to give him like a gift card or something like that.
Before you move in, let me come over. Let me throw up.
I christened the place.
It's like, so outstanding.
Irish baptism is what I did to that joint. I know, but if we do another one, it sucks that the weather's bad because he's got like a rooftop deck, dude. That's like,
oh yeah, nice,
so cool. I hope he doesn't mind them spilling beans on this.
Have you done any virtual mics?
I haven't done any virtual mics. I'm doing a Zoom corporate thing coming up, which I'm a little like nervous about because it's not like I've been avoiding them. There's been a lot of times where people were like, hey, could you do it? I know like LA friends and the time zone difference. I'm like, look, my wife's a nurse. She works 12-hour shifts. I've got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. I'm not going to be able to commit to that. And I've just kind of avoided them enough. When stand-up came back for a little bit there, August through October, I did some sets at Zany's and Laugh Factory. Kept it safe enough. Luckily, I've not gotten COVID, so yeah, I kept it safe. But no, I've not done a virtual open mic. Have you?
No, I just heard that they were doing them. I was talking to Flanagan, and we were. I was saying I would do one.
At this point, I'm up for trying anything just because why the fuck not, But like I know what you're saying before with like the whole feeling like we're just put on a shelf as comedians. And I guarantee we're all going to come back rusty as hell and the crowds are going to be crazy. But then after a few months, I'm being overly optimistic. I think things will fall as they may, like the good comics will be back to being good comics. You're going to feel weird because we're going to be trying to remember our old jokes, but then we're going to have an urge to do new stuff just because we'll want to keep it fresh for ourselves. And the new stuff won't be ready yet. And the old stuff isn't as sharp as it used to be because we barely remember it. It's just going to be like riding a bike, I think.
I could see it changing, like longer sets. You might not see that as much.
Could be. And I think that might be a smart thing going forward in general. Sometimes, you think about the attention span of people nowadays, and sadly, it's not what it used to be. Yeah. So, I've heard stories from big name comedians saying that your typical hour special, whether it's on Amazon, Netflix, Showtime, whatever, HBO, people really only watch about 20 minutes of it, 20 to 30, even the ones that they love.
Right.
They're like, that one comic who's kind of blown up over the last couple of years, Andrew Schulz, he was talking about how it's like, you could learn a lot about comedy by talking to people who aren't in comedy. And he was talking to all of his friends who love stand-up. And he's like, whose specials are you watching? And they're like, I watch Burrs. I watch, Mulaney, Chappelle, and Birbiglia, just naming your typical Sebastian. And they would always say to him, I didn't finish it though. And he's like, what do you mean you didn't finish? He's like, I loved it. I was liking it. But, after about 20 minutes, why don't you go turn on, Ozark or something? I think there's just so many damn options that people love the live act. But I think the the live act could be 40 minutes long. I don't think everyone has to do an hour anymore. I think they could make the shows a little bit tighter, and maybe because it'll leave the crowd wanting more in a sense. And it almost would be a better thing instead of doing that 90-minute show, going for like a 75 to 80-minute show and kind of keep people being like, fuck, that was just the right amount.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just one of the predictions I have. It's hard to guess what's going to happen with any of this stuff. I did want to ask you though, man, how did it feel doing your first special at the Vic, which is such a cool venue in Chicago, and having Sebastian Maniscalco, who's like one of the big names in stand-up comedy, be like the producer of it? How did it, give me the rundown of how it came about?
Well, I talk about living up there. I that lived right there by the Vic. So it was cool being back in that neighborhood and in that part of the city. Sebastian was talking about doing this for like the last year and a half or something before we taped it. And, to his credit, he had me do the set in LA at the Improv. And it was kind of tough. It was like a Wednesday night at the show started at 10. And so I'm doing like a 45-minute set on a Wednesday night at the Improv. And it's like, it was not that great. It was not a fun experience. So, I mean, it was a good show, but, it just wasn't ready. So we kind of tabled it for a while, and I tried to get some new shit going and back on the road with him. And we picked a date. We revisited it. I sent him a tape again. And, the fact that he is doing that, did this for me and, continues to bring me out on the road with him. And it's just the most you could do for somebody, like putting your name on a special. And so it was just a great overall experience. And to tape it in Chicago was cool.
That's pretty amazing. I'm a big fan of that guy. I like his humor. He definitely, I love how he opened his special when he did at the Chicago Theater, because his dad sounds like my dad. His opening joke where he tells his dad, I'm filming this at the Chicago Theater, and his dad immediately goes, "Where's everyone supposed to park?" Like that's my dad. That is such a Midwest Chicago dad type of vibe there, where it's just like, yeah, good for you, but did you think about anyone else? You know what it's like? It's a nightmare down there. You know what I mean? State Street, there's nowhere to park. It's a mess. It's traffic, But dude, that's such a cool thing. How did you meet Sebastian?
I met him at Zany's. I met him when I was House MC there, and that's when he was like selling out the clubs and really starting to take off. And he would come through, and it was like just bananas. He would sell out like the whole week. And then I kept opening for him. And in fact, I opened for him at that special, the one you just referenced with the parking joke. He was taping it here, and I had opened for him. Cindy with Zany's helped me with that one as well, connected us again. So we just always stayed in touch.
That's awesome.
I randomly got paired up with him like on a couple, or at least one corporate gig, just randomly, and we're working together again. So it's been a really good relationship. I've learned a lot from being with this dude, man. It's really, he's just such a hard worker. Like the what he does to like what he puts into the career and how he is like relentless, and then on top of it, always just doing new material, but he's real performer too, right? Like he flips a switch. He's not like, he says it in his book, he's not like jumping off the page in real life. He's kind of a reserved dude, kind of refers to himself as a cat. And, we have a really solid friendship and relationship, but I give him space. He's a kind of just like a focused dude.
Yeah, you think you'd have to be. I know he's been doing movies lately, which I think he's a great actor in. I really do. I like what I've seen from him. But he's pretty much made his bread and butter and made his name as a straight up stand-up, which you just don't see a whole lot of. Like, I mean, obviously there's, I think Burr's one of those guys. Brian Regan was one of those guys. People who just built up a fan base strictly off of like just kicking ass on their shows. And I know he kind of blew up on Vine a little bit. Was it one of those apps? I know he kind of started to get a following.
Yeah.
Do that whole "aren't you embarrassed" thing.
Yeah,
It's too funny.
he's done great with the social media stuff and acting. Yeah, I know he's like really wants to focus on that too, because it's really, we had a conversation during all this. Touring was always like you said, it was the bread and butter of that's kind of like what everybody thought would always be there. That was always the fallback, right? Like there's
Yeah.
always touring. There's always going to be, we can always do live shows. I mean, and isn't it just like an eye opener? Like, what? Like this just obliterated, right?
It's
So
awful.
I think that everyone's kind of pivoting and looking for other things to do, diversify, and he was already kind of on that path anyway. So I know he'll be all right, but it's gonna be like so much better when Tori comes back.
Did you get to go on a private jet with him or anything like that?
Yeah, a few
That's
times.
awesome. That's so awesome.
Yeah, he's we stay in nice hotels, but he's not like throwing money around, and I think he's pretty smart with how he does it. But the plane thing is like that. Can you imagine, like, you get used to that? And I'll say to him sometimes too, like, dude, like, did this start like at an open mic? Like, it's kind of, that's how it starts, right? It starts with an open mic, and now you have a private jet for the weekend.
But you know what, dude? You have a great work ethic too, because like I think I was going to go into it. You mentioned you didn't start stand until you were 31, but I feel like when you started, I think I met you when you were like 8 months in, because I remember you and I talked at, I think it was Hoghead McDonough or Ace Bar. It used to be called Hoghead McDonough's, but it was Ace Bar's open mic because we both had a similar joke. And I remember just approaching you. I thought your set was funny, but I approached you because I'm like, oh, I don't want you to think I took it from you or you from me, but just it's similar enough. And we were both like, the joke's going to be dead in 2 weeks anyway, because it was like a topical joke about how there was a 14-year-old kid who impersonated being a Chicago police officer.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I can't remember what the rest of the joke was, but I think our both had the same.
Was it about his like shoes having the wheels on them, like the?
Yeah, I think we both had like the same like viewpoint of like they were gonna figure it out eventually when he was, not shaking down immigrants or something like that. Like, I don't know. But we did some like little dig at the police department, which at the time people had a sense of humor.
Yeah,
Dude, I remember like a couple of my earlier jokes, because I grew up in a cop neighborhood and a lot of my friends were becoming cops at the time. And my friends' dads were cops, and like, it wasn't out of a place of like, fuck the police at all, but you could make a couple jokes about cops and it was fine. I think if I made those jokes now and there were cops in the crowd, they'd be like, what the fuck, man? Like, it's just a different atmosphere. I'm realizing now that I'm talking about it. But
yeah, right.
I remember you told me you were coaching and like teaching, and then you went into comedy. And I think you were like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to like go in with a game plan and not half-ass it. And I think that goes to show, because I know there's some people out there with negative mindsets. I'm talking about other comedians, not me and you, of course, where they'll be like, well, Pat got lucky. He got lucky. Sebastian saw him. I'm like, well, sure, that part of it, maybe, but you still were hilarious. You know what I mean? You have to be good. A lot of people like
Yeah, I
they
think
might get seen by someone, and if you suck, then the opportunity isn't there. You were good. Like, you created your own luck by being good and putting yourself in a position where big name comedians could see you.
I think that it's a combination of so many events, right? I mean, the biggest thing before that was I got to house MC at Zanies, and once I was doing that, I got a lot of stage time. That's the biggest thing that everyone needs, right? And
Yeah.
I didn't even realize how fortunate I was to have that until I did, and that was to me like just getting up all the time and networking, not like deliberately networking, but you meet people and you that all starts to grow. And yeah, it's just kind of like, but I could always work harder, which is I mean, that's all of us, right? Sometimes you don't feel like writing, sometimes you don't want to listen to the show you recorded. It's like those things where I found myself like, I got to push myself to do. It's like the fundamentals.
Well, it's tough when you have kids too, man. That was a big shift for me, where, I used to love the late set. the late night spot, or like, oh, the Friday night late show, the Saturday night late show. I would thrive on those. Now I'm like, I want to go to, I've been up since 6:30. I didn't get a nap today. I'm exhausted. I need to go to bed. Like, it's so to keep that going is tough with kids. And when you hold yourself to a certain level where it's like, these are the performances I need to be putting out there now because I'm raising my own bar. But it just goes to show you though, too, if you're funny as hell and you work hard and you're a good person like you are, then yeah, doors are eventually going to open. It might take, a longer time than for some than others, but if you stay on that path, I think good things will happen. I think it's like the main message I wanted to get out to the kids.
Love it.
Don't be a dick, right? There we go. All right, Patrick, do you want to round up? We're going to play a little fuck, marry, kill. It's a little tradition I've been starting over the last, I've probably been doing it for about 6-7 months now. I like to end by, it's a classic game, an American classic. I think we started here in America. Maybe it's
I used to
European.
say F, marry, kill on Howard Stern on terrestrial radio. I love that you're free enough here.
When I break this into clips on the YouTube, I do F, marry, kill. But then I think on YouTube also they have marry, kill, smash, which just doesn't roll off the tongue. I don't like that. I'd rather say F, marry, kill. Now with you, I want to do. I've been doing it geographically for people, so or like what they're into. When I had Marty DeRosa on, he's in the world of wrestling, so I'd like wrestling divas for him to choose. For you, I'm picking Southside actresses. Because you're a good Southside boy there, Patty. Although, real quick, for my national listeners, there is a big difference between Pat McGann's Southside and the Southside that they scare you about on the national news. It's just there's a little bit of a difference there. So
is Jenny McCarthy in this?
She is. Do you know her? Right. I could remove her if you know her.
My sister is like just a couple away from her in the Mother Macaulay yearbook, alphabetical.
Oh yeah,
McGann and McCarthy. I know they're on the same page.
If you're uncomfortable, I could remove her.
No, you don't have to.
I'll keep her in. All right, because the reason I have her in is she's an obvious one. She's from Chicago, South Side especially. She's cousins with Melissa McCarthy. I was thinking about putting her in, but they're all Jennifers. I've got Jenny McCarthy, Jennifer Hudson, and Jennifer Beals. And we're going to do a fourth one. We're going to do R. Kelly too. No, I'm kidding. I think he might be West Side than South Side. But, I used to do it where sometimes you'd have a guy to choose from, which I could throw in there because we're all adults, right? But your choices for fuck, marry, kill are Jenny McCarthy, as we all know, blonde. She's married to a Wahlberg now, not the one that's not as cool, not Marky Mark, but Donnie. She was on Singled Out back in the day. She's with The View. She has views that aren't controversial at all. And and the other one,
anti-vaxxer, right?
She's an anti-vaxxer. Yeah, she's big on that because she was like, I don't know
if she was. That can get you killed.
That could get you killed. She, literally. Was she married to Jim Carrey or just dating him? I think they were together for a while.
They were together for a while. I don't know if they ever got married. And we're gonna kill her.
Okay, and then you got Jennifer Hudson, beautiful singer, great actress, and then of course Jennifer Beals was in Flashdance, which is a big movie in the 80s in which she takes off her bra through her shirt, and everyone really dug that.
Okay, yeah, right. I might have to do that.
Right, so we're killing Jenny McCarthy. We already put that out there.
We'll do the bad word. I feel uncomfortable saying that I'm gonna F, marry, and kill F, marry, or kill a woman from the South.
Yeah, the kill part gets people. How about
I'm gonna
ruin their credit?
I'm gonna marry Jennifer Hudson.
Good choice. She's a good singer too. Lively conversation, I bet.
And we, one of the guys that worked Sebastian's tour he's like her right hand, so we could talk about him.
Nice.
So then I'm gonna have to kill Jennifer Beals. No, I killed Jennifer McCarthy.
You killed Jenny McCarthy for being an anti-vaxxer.
So I have to F Jennifer Beals.
You got to F her up. You got to not F her up, but you got to make love to her.
I got to flash dance Jennifer Beals.
You know what? You ever think about that? Like if you're famous for a certain thing, I wonder if people think about it. If you were a single man and you went out with Jennifer Beals and say you've been dating for a few months, because you're not going to bust that out first date. But after a few months, you might be like, so, Can we get a little role playing here? I'm thinking it's 1983. You're kind of working up a sweat in a warehouse, dancing it up. What do you say?
Would you mind grabbing the leotard?
Oh man,
JB.
she's been hounded for that. Some date she's been on was like, come on, one time, do it.
She's still going, right? Like she's got a nice career. Is she in like a cop show? And
she's in some cop show, and then she was also in there was a cop show that was filmed in Chicago for a year called like the Chicago Code or something.
I love that show. I thought that was good. That was the guy from Brotherhood who was in that.
Who's like Australian, I think, right?
Australian, Darren Clark or something.
Can I tell you about that? So I was only a couple of years into stand-up, but I knew this English guy named Benny Harris. And Benny got into voice coaching where he would coach actors. Like he moved out to LA and he would coach actors on how to do an English accent. Like he got a job working for like some company or studio or something. And he hit up me and a couple of the Chicago comics that he knew. I think like Brendan McGowan. I'm trying to think anyone else you might have known about. He says they're doing a cop show in Chicago and, they need a voice coach to teach this guy how to do a Chicago accent. He's an Australian actor. He's the lead. Do you think you could and I had like a phone interview with someone where I had explained like how I would teach them how to do a Chicago accent and what I think might help and to make it authentic. They didn't hire me. And I missed the season premiere of the show, but I was listening to local sports radio as I do. And the first thing they brought up was how they thought the accent sucked. And I'm like, that's what you get for not fucking hiring me.
Yeah, it wasn't a great accent, but I did like the show. I remember Mancow was in like the first episode. He was
Mancow, local
playing himself. And then I think that guy also played Kennedy in like didn't he play John F. Kennedy in something?
He might have. He's a good actor. No, he's a good actor. I just don't think he nailed the Chicago accent that well. And of course, they had to do the Cubs Sox joke.
Oh, yeah.
Every show does that. The first episode of Chicago PD, they did a Cubs Sox joke. But not only that, but they did like a South Side joke where the one guy was like joining their tough guy unit. This was like a tougher, more undercover unit. And he's like, where are you from? And he goes, my parents were divorced. My mom lived in Canaryville. My dad lived in Beverly. And he's like, well, in this job, I'm going to want you to be more Canaryville. Which I remember just being like, God, who wrote that? They must have wrote that to be like, hey, we're authentic Chicago. Like, we're the real deal. Meanwhile, in episode 3, they said soda instead of pop. And I'm like, fuck this show. No, I actually kind of like Chicago PD. It's a good show. Yeah. I like it a lot, actually. Hire me. I auditioned for it last year and didn't get a part, but this year, maybe.
That's the one I still get a check for every now and then. I did a Chicago PD. I saved a woman's life in that. She got beat up in front of my house in the Gold Coast.
Oh, that's great, man. I didn't know you were in an episode of that.
And I had to come out and what's the older woman?
I know who you're talking about. I don't know her name.
Just Tracy or Stacy?
Something like that.
Anyway, I was a car collector. I had to say this line that would make you cringe. He was talking about like the car's driving off, and I got to say like it was a '57 Chevy. I collect. Like it's like, oh, who says that?
Yeah, maybe a Gold Coast douchebag might. So I think you nailed the part.
I collect.
I had a part in Chicago Med in which I played a guy who got stabbed over a game of pool. And I was the main like big surgery of the episode.
Sounds like real life, Joe. You got in a fight? If you're at a bar, you got in a fight?
That's why I said, I didn't even feel like an audition. I walked in and the producers were like, I'd like to stab this guy. I'm like, I can say the lines. They're like, nah, don't even worry about it.
So you had to act stabbed?
Yeah, like they rolled me in on a gurney. I had like 2 lines, or I had 3 lines. They cut one of them because I had a line before they approached me, but I think they got rid of that part. And then I'm just like, oh man. And then it's like, I grab the doctor. I'm like, stab me over a game of pool. And then I kind of like black out. And then I'm like the main surgery and they cut me up.
Dude, I got to see this.
I can show you some pictures.
See, you talk about we're coming full circle. You talk about seeing people on something. Like, that's what I would love. Like seeing, like, there's Joe Kilgallon.
Yeah, dude. It's fun. It's fun. I get a kick out of
I've seen Megan Gailey in a couple commercials. She was like in the almonds commercial, right?
Dude, she was in that almonds commercial every day.
Saw Martin Murrow in a bunch of commercials. I see gosh, who else? A lot of people.
Well, just today I saw Andrew Santino in a commercial. Do you know Santino?
I don't know him, but I know who he is. Yeah.
Yeah, he's an awesome dude from the Chicagoland area. And it's a commercial for FanDuel. And, we were talking about earlier when it's like you tell your kids, hey, I know this guy on this TV, and my son that's like almost 4, he kind of starts to be like, oh, you know that person? Because I'm trying to explain to him about like actors and all this kind of stuff. Because like, he loves, like around Christmas time, he liked the Polar Express, but he also loves Toy Story. And I'm like, that's the same voice that does Woody, that does the conductor, Tom Hanks. He's starting to connect it a little bit. But anyway, so I'm watching TV and a commercial for FanDuel comes on, and it's Andrew Santino. I'm like, oh, this is a friend of me. It's one of Daddy's friends. I do comedy with him. I've done some bunch of shows and stuff. And he's like, oh, cool. And then the whole commercial, it starts to go back, and like, it's on his face first, and then like, zooms out, and he's pantsless, but they have like a blur over his junk.
Oh, really?
And I'm like, my son's kind of like, what the hell is this commercial? He didn't say anything, but I took a photo of it and I texted Santino being like, dude, I'm trying to watch the show with my kids. And then his text back was, let me see. I think I got it real quick. He texted back.
The unblurred part?
Yeah. So I texted him the blurred part or whatever. He didn't text that, but it was hilarious. He goes, oh, and they finally saw a redhead with a substantial cock. That's what he writes back. Santino, you son of a bitch. I just wrote, you know what? Touche, my man. Touche. There you go. All right, Patrick McGann, Patty boy. Dude, this was fun, man. Thanks
Great to talk to you, Joe. Thanks for having me, man.
Hell yeah, dude. Thanks for jumping on the podcast. Is there anywhere you want people to follow you? The special's on Amazon, everybody.
Yes, they can check out the special on Amazon. It's also supposed to be on Peacock coming out this week, I think.
Oh yeah, the Peacock, everybody. That might be an app worth getting.
New streaming service, the Peacock. But yeah, I'm on social media. Instagram is where I post most of my stuff.
You're just at Pat McGann, right? You don't have to do any like weird shit.
It's at McGann_Pat.
There we go. So I'm glad you said at McGann_Pat, everybody. Also, when we get off air, I'm going to double check to see if I have your phone number. Because I thought, I messaged you on Facebook, but I'm like, I've got his phone number. I have 2 Pat McGees in my phone, and I didn't know who was who. Because I knew a Pat McGee back in high school. So I'm like, fuck, I don't want to text the wrong guy and then get stuck being like, hey, what are you up to? It's been 20 years.
Some other guy ends up on your podcast.
I know. Great. I'm like, well, let's see what's going on with you, buddy. I love when you run into someone you haven't seen in like 15 years and they're like, man, it's been 15 years. Yeah, there's a reason for that. We don't need to like talk about, I don't need to catch up. I don't need your life story.
Right.
I want to get my donuts and leave just like you, my man.
It's been so long.
So long. All right, dude. Thanks again for doing the podcast. You're the best. Everyone follow McGann_Pat on all the social media platforms, in particular Instagram. Look out for his special on Peacock and on Amazon. Just type in Pat McGann on Amazon and it'll come up. When is mom going to be here? Or when is mom going to be home?
Yeah, when's mom going to be home?
When's mom going to be home? Great title. You guys are going to love his stand-up. Dude, Pat, you're the best. Thanks again, my man.
Appreciate it, Joe. Thanks, man.